Vamos a estar teniendo una charla muy interesante. Creo que vienen más speakers, somos como 7, así que vamos a tratar de que todos puedan dar su opinión. El panel va a estar en varios idiomas. So you guys, if you feel comfortable speaking in English, you switch to English. Los que prefieran, hablamos en español. Básicamente vamos a estar hablando hoy.
Vamos a tener que abrir.
Un lugarcito.
Vamos a tener que abrir, que somos más.
Abrimos aquí. Vamos a estar hablando del impacto político y los cambios que podemos esperar en los formatos de gobierno que podemos ver en el futuro a partir de la adopción masiva de Bitcoin. Hay distintas ideas de cómo se puede lograr esto. Ciudades privadas, Álvaro está haciendo un libro sobre Micropolis y quizás ideas que no se nos imaginan que pueden llegar a suceder en el futuro. Así que primero podemos hacer una ronda rápidamente presentándose, cada uno introducing yourself y compartiendo con nosotros qué creen que será el impacto que tendrá Bitcoin en la forma de organizarnos como sociedad. Camilo,
Should I start? Okay. My name is Camilo. I'm a Bitcoin Citadel builder. Well, that's it. That's my story. We're trying to build Citadels.
Yo soy Álvaro de María, soy el autor de la filosofía de Bitcoin, que muchos conoceréis. Estoy escribiendo también un libro ahora que se llama Micropolis, que va sobre jurisdicciones personalizadas, sobre cómo podemos superar el Estado como forma de organización política. Y adicionalmente, pues bueno, enseño sobre Bitcoin con mi empresa, con BTC Consulting 360, y también hemos creado un posgrado de Bitcoin solo con la Universidad de las Hespérides, con Juan Ramón Rayo.
Bueno, mi nombre es Tomás Fabricante, soy el representante diplomático acá en Argentina de Liberland. Liberland es una micronación de 7 kilómetros cuadrados basada en los Balcanes. Estamos, bueno, ayudando, liderando la creación de nuevos estados. Liberland, para responder a tu pregunta, su sistema de gobierno está todo basado en la blockchain. Obviamente hay libre competencia de monedas, así que la gente puede hacer sus transacciones en la moneda que quiera. Mucha gente usa, todo el mundo usa cripto, obviamente. Y bueno, me encantaría conocer las diferentes visiones de las micronaciones. Do you want to share on this side your microphone?
Disculpa, está apagado. And turn it on.
There we go.
There we go.
We got an on switch. Nice.
So introduce yourself and share a little bit with us. How do you guys think the challenges of governance with Bitcoin mass adoption, how governments in the future could change based on this?
Okay. I'm John Chenot. I'm a Bitcoiner, I'm a surfer, and I'm founder of CitadelTheory.com, which is a website where we're gathering people for retreats and adventure experiences around the globe, focused on developing personal sovereignty and personal freedom. Leading an expedition here in Argentina, so really excited to be doing that. I think the problem with governance here, governance in Bitcoin, governments and Bitcoin, I'm a big fan of the book, The Sovereign Individual, and I think the sovereign individual thesis has been playing out almost to a T over the past 20 years. If you can read that book and just see the correlation between current events. And one of the things that they talk about is the dissolution of the nation state. And so I think we see that happening at a grand scale right now. And those who are aware of what's going on and informed about how Bitcoin is connecting this new you might call them a new class or a new rich or a new elite, you might say, of the sovereign individual. We are able to take advantage of these freedom tools, this technology that is able to connect us on a value level around the globe and move freely around with our accumulated wealth on into the future. So I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I think that that's going to be our key resource moving forward in resisting any kind of government overreach as these crumbling old institutions that were born of the industrial era tend to continue in that direction of corrosion.
Yeah, so mi nombre es Mikic y mi español es muy malos, so I'll probably be speaking in English. I have 3 YouTube channels and I teach people about sovereignty and Bitcoin online. Since I escaped Australia in 2022, I think I've traveled to 50 different cities. I've lived all across Latin America, all across Europe, and I've just been looking for a home because, like mentioned, I believe in the sovereign individual thesis as well. I will not be living in a Western nation state for the next 10 or 20 years because it's going to be too dangerous for sovereign individuals to be living there. Every day we're seeing new rules, everybody's talking about unrealized capital gains tax, France is trying to introduce citizenship-based taxation. All of these things are going to continue to come. They're going to come after the Bitcoiners, they're going to come after the business owners. So if you are a business owner or a Bitcoiner living in America, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, it's going to be incredibly dangerous for you over the next 10 or 15 years. So I'm trying to teach people about not only financial sovereignty with Bitcoin, but also how to gain geographical sovereignty by, getting a second passport or simply just moving to a country that's not going to extort you for your wealth, like these Western nations are. And I think it's really important that we all start to think about that because governments are fundamentally incompatible for the digital age. They're built upon technologies from the industrial age, which is, again, the core thesis of the book, The Sovereign Individual. And for the first time in 10,000 years, we're living through this decentralized revolution where you can live anywhere around the world. You can store your wealth in your brain and have that anywhere around the world. There is no reason to be in these large, bloated, bureaucratic cities and Western nation states when you have the technology at your hand to save and earn income from anywhere around the world. So again, I'm a massive sovereign individual maximalist like John here, and I'm just trying to teach people about why they should consider becoming a digital nomad and escaping their Western government, because to the question, governments today are incompatible with the digital age.
Hola chicas, hola chicas. Mi nombre es Pavol Luptak, soy originalmente de Eslovaquia, pero vivo mucho tiempo en América Latina. Yo tengo una empresa, Liberation Travel, en esta empresa ayudamos a muchos clientes a salir del sistema. Entonces les ayudamos a cancelar su residencia, especialmente en Europa, como mayoría de nuestros clientes están en Europa. Entonces les ayudamos cancelar su residencia, obtener residencia en los países mejores como Panamá, Paraguay, Uruguay, estos países. Abrimos sus cuentas en Georgia, sus empresas en Estados Unidos. Entonces, les ayudamos a descentralizar diferentes aspectos de su vida a diferentes países y alcanzar la libertad. Y la cosa más importante para ellos es Bitcoin, porque gracias a Bitcoin ellos pueden ser libres y pueden alcanzar libertad. Entonces, casi todos nuestros clientes son crypto people, las personas que usan Bitcoin todo el día. Y creo que sin Bitcoin sería más complicado vivir como viajero permanente, por ejemplo, nómades digitales. Entonces, para nosotros, por ejemplo, nuestra empresa no tiene la cuenta bancaria, somos como 100% cripto y entonces para nosotros como Bitcoin y criptomonedas son absolutamente inevitables para nuestro negocio y también para nuestros clientes alcanzar libertad.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Ahora voy a hacer dos preguntas en uno. First, I do the question in Spanish, then guys, when it comes to you, I'll repeat it in English. Quisiera saber dos cosas, ¿qué opinan? Uno es cómo Bitcoin genera un desafío para los estados-nación tradicionales en la parte impositiva, estas estructuras que se han creado después de la era industrial, cómo se ven amenazadas por esta tecnología y qué solución aportan las jurisdicciones personalizadas o las ciudades privadas, por un lado. Y por otro lado, ¿cuál creen que sería un vínculo razonable o positivo como que se retroalimenten entre las ciudades personalizadas y los estados-nación? ¿Ven un futuro que es A o B o puede haber una convivencia entre estados tradicionales que hayan entendido los desafíos que se vienen y puedan combinar o coexistir con estas jurisdicciones personalizadas?
Yo creo que los estados y las jurisdicciones personalizadas, que yo he llamado Micropolis, van a coexistir, ¿no? Para que se entienda que es una jurisdicción personalizada, yo suelo poner un ejemplo polémico, ¿no? Pero lo podemos ver como una semilla también en las economías circulares de Bitcoin, ¿no? El Zonte, todas estas del libro que presentamos también con Gaku, ¿no? Pues ahí podéis ver un montón de historias de comunidades que están creando nuevos vínculos utilizando Bitcoin para crear nuevas realidades políticas también, ¿no? Estamos conectando lo local con lo global, ¿no? La cuestión es cómo podemos enlazar todas esas relaciones políticas que se están creando también con los estados, ¿no? Que no sea una cosa al margen meramente. Entonces yo creo que aquí lo que tiene mucho sentido es que haya un nuevo proceso de contrato social. Que empecemos a crear un nuevo contrato social donde la relación de los estados sea una relación de albergar jurisdicciones personalizadas sobre las que no tienen soberanía, a cambio de relaciones mercantiles, a cambio de tributos, a cambio de atracción de capital humano, ¿no? Y para ir a un ejemplo muy gráfico, ¿no? Yo suelo poner el ejemplo de la Micropolis de Elon Musk. Imaginemos que Argentina cede 500 kilómetros cuadrados a Elon Musk, como una jurisdicción independiente, completamente. Y a cambio, ellos hacen un contrato social por el que Elon Musk va a pagar el 10% de los tributos de lo que se produzca allí al Estado argentino, además de un pago inicial de 100.000 millones de dólares. Argentina, por nada, por 500 kilómetros cuadrados, resuelve íntegramente todos sus problemas económicos, de la noche a la mañana. Y es capaz de atraer una cantidad ingente de capital humano que va a fomentar el desarrollo de su país a lo bestia. Es simplemente una idea política, pero es una idea política tan potente que puede transformar completamente nuestras sociedades, nuestra realidad, en todos los ámbitos, ¿no? Y eso que se ve, por ejemplo, con este caso concreto, ¿no? Con el que un empresario, una autoridad carismática se traería sus empresas, un montón de ingenieros, un montón de capital humano a una jurisdicción, pues eso lo podemos aplicar a todo, ¿no? Podemos crear nuevas realidades jurídico-políticas integradas en el territorio político de los estados. Y para eso hay que superar la idea de Estado-Nación. Para eso hay que superar esa idea de un Estado tiene que tener el control soberano sobre un territorio, en todos los ámbitos. No. Se pueden crear jurisdicciones independientes dentro de la misma comunidad, ¿no? Y la clave aquí es el contrato social que se establezca, cómo se hace cumplir ese contrato. Y es ahí donde Bitcoin nos devuelve el poder de negociación, porque Bitcoin es una propiedad absoluta que si el político quiere quitarnos algo, no puede. Y es ahí donde nosotros tenemos el poder de negociar con ellos, ¿no? Y donde podemos utilizar las multifirmas como sistemas de garantía. Podemos utilizar un montón de mecanismos que nos permite Bitcoin para poder someter al Estado y hacerle cumplirle el contrato o imponerle costes muy altos. Cuando entendemos esto, entendemos un cambio de era gigantesco, ¿no? Que es lo que comentaba Gaku. Estamos pasando de una era industrial, donde el Estado predomina, a una era de la información, donde es muchísimo más fácil ajustar esa oferta a la demanda, ¿no? De tal manera que podemos atraer también mucho capital humano a nuestros territorios. Y esto es lo esencial. Hoy no hace falta fábricas en los estados. Hoy hace falta atraer ese capital, ese talento, que sea capaz de prestar servicios a nivel global.
Amén.
Bueno, sí. Sí.
Amén.
Well, what we are building in Liberland is not only a free city but a free country. So we are trying to build this agoristic movement placed in a geographical place, in a tangible place. We have our work cut out for us because we are having diplomatic missions in over 90 countries, in the UN, in the US, in Argentina, to achieve all the international requirements for other countries to recognize us as a country. Very, very small countries already recognize Liberland as a country. Colombia recognizes a passport. You can now, we have a passport just like any of yours, and you can now legally enter Colombia with that. We are very close to the recognition of the passport in República Dominicana, in Argentina, in El Salvador. And we believe almost everything that you said. We need a new contractualist theory. I don't agree in the term of taxes, because in Liberland, taxes are voluntary. That is our new contractualist. Rousseau, Hobbes, and Locke, all of them contractualists said you need the government to extort you, to force, to steal the product of your labor in order for you to live in a society. Well, we believe that the only ethic, the only moral, legitimate way to live in a society is where you, as a citizen, you can finance your government willingly. What you want, when you want it. Now, in terms of crypto, Liberland is a hub for these new businesses, for these digital businesses. You can register your company there, you can register your assets there. But I think it's a step further. I'm not a crypto guy. I don't understand the blockchain at all. I'm a philosopher. I'm a political consultant. I'm sorry. But what brings me to work in these types of projects that it's going to be 10 years in the making now, and I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but I think we all agree, is that it's a revolution. So 250 years ago, in this continent, we had dozens of revolutions that created dozens of new republics, and for the first time in history, people could choose their way to be governed. They could choose their own laws, they could write their own constitution. We are now doing the same, as our fellow debate member here says. Now, those revolutions changed the world and were the giver of the creator of the greatest technology on earth. But now that technology fell short. It's getting old. It's getting twisted. So we need to do these new revolutions.
Muy bien. So, guys, we're discussing here the challenges for traditional states on tax collection and everything that is happening through Bitcoin. The need for a new social contract and how personalized cities or micropolis could add value to those individuals with a different approach. That's the first part of the question. And the second one is, how do you envision the relationship between the traditional nation states and these personalized citadels or micropolis? Do they compete, or there's room for collaboration between traditional states and this new form of government?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. Well, one of the things that I think is good to bring up here is just a quick quote to start off with, which, you know, I mentioned the sovereign individual, and they say that in the future, one of the milestones by which you measure your financial success will not just be how many zeros you can add to your net worth, but whether you can structure your affairs in a way that enables you to realize full individual autonomy and independence. So I think that a lot of us are drawn to Bitcoin because it brings us that financial sovereignty, that financial independence, that we can capture this thing, we can have control over this digital asset that's immaterial, but it still is this substance that has true value and true worth in this real world and can take an effect that others value as well. So I think the unconfiscatability of this asset is the thing that I think we want to focus on. It's the fact that this is a distributed network that is large actors have tried to bring it down and try to steal from others, but it's just makes it not possible. So I think if you take that into consideration, if you have a people group or a group of people who are using Bitcoin, this thing that can't be confiscated from them, it just gives this extra negotiating power, extra leverage in terms of like how, and so to me, I see the Citadels developing. I guess just to back up a little bit. I see them developing more at a grassroots level. I see them developing on a community level. Like we in our group and a lot of other Bitcoiners like to say, your community is the foundation of your Citadel. We like to dream big and think about nations and we want to take strides in that direction to actually have a say on the global, to have a megaphone on the global level and have passports and everything in it. I admire Liberland and many of the other private city projects that are doing that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to live in a village, or if you're going to associate with a group of people, you want it to be the people that you want to be around. And so I think I prefer that we start local. We start with our individual networks and build out first a group of individuals that you want to live life together with. And if we're operating on that small of a scale, if we have clustered groups of 100 to 200 people all around the world that are using Bitcoin to store their wealth, they're securing their food and natural resources through relationships with farmers, and setting up individually owned properties that they own legally in their own land. That's something that's very hard to disrupt, and especially a network of those that's spread out across jurisdictions. That's the kind of thing that I envision the Citadel actually being. And so, yeah, we're going to interact with this state no matter what. It's here. We're in it. It's the water in which we swim. We want to play within their rules for now. But as they fade in relevance and Bitcoiners and sovereign individuals gain in power and influence, hopefully we can restore a more, bring the freedom that we're able to create in our communities into the rest of the world. That's kind of what I think.
I agree. I think governments are going to be facing many challenges over the next decade, 2 decades. Again, it all goes back to technology. Technology changes the world. I think, as Lynn Alden said in her recent book, politics changes things temporarily and locally. And everybody's obsessed with politics. Oh, what's the SEC going to do? Oh, is Orange Man going to be good for Bitcoin? Or is Indian lady going to be good for Bitcoin? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because as Lynn Alden says in her book, the second part of that quote is, technology is what changes the world globally and permanently. Politics is an absolute distraction. So I believe that the technology of Bitcoin combined with the internet and all of these other decentralized empowering technologies for the individual that we have at our hands today is going to change the world in really big and drastic ways. I think that it's no coincidence that around 500 years ago, we saw the separation of church and state. And that came about because of the technology of the printing press. Once we decentralized and democratized information for everybody, everybody said, hang on a minute, I don't trust the church, I don't trust the state. And we saw the biggest revolution in history. I believe it was one of the biggest in history anyway. And I believe now, 500 years later, Bitcoin is going to be doing a very similar thing for money. We are decentralizing and democratizing money for the 8 billion people on planet Earth today. And as John was saying a moment ago, once you can store your wealth in cyberspace, the state has to shrink. The only reason governments are so large today is because the technology of the past 500 years has enabled them to get so big. Central banking has enabled these counterfeiters to print money, extort money, create currency collapses, extort our wealth, and just continually erode the lower and the middle class, siphon more wealth up to the elite, which enables them to enact all of these laws and be as large as they are today. So where do I think we're going to go in the future? I believe that was the second part of the question. I believe that instead of having 200 countries, we're going to have 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 private cities all around the world. Again, this is the first decentralized revolution that we've ever seen in human history. 10,000 years ago, we saw the agricultural revolution. That was centralizing. It took humans from being hunters and gatherers to settling in these agricultural societies, in farms and villages. And then 250 years ago, we saw the next big revolution, the Industrial Revolution in the 1770s. This took people from the farms and the villages and put them into these big mega cities. And then right now, we are living through the first decentralized revolution. We're living through the information age. All of a sudden, the technology's there. As the quote says, like, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. But over the past 5 years, we've seen 35 million digital nomads wake up and say, hang on a minute, I'm going to leave these big bloated Western nation states and these big Western cities, and I'm going to go live remotely. This is the sovereign individual thesis. It is playing out, like John said earlier as well. Like, we're watching it unfold right now. It's just, are you going to jump now while you still can? Or are you going to be like me in 2020 in Australia? I thought, hey, I'm sovereign. I hold Bitcoin. I've got fuck you money. Government can't do anything to me, right? I thought I was a big tough boy over there in Australia. I'm not paying taxes ever again. 2020 happened and I was like, oh shit, I'm stuck in Australia. I can't move. I have no geographical sovereignty. So again, I think this is something people are missing. I think there's more aspects to sovereignty than just financial sovereignty. You need geographical sovereignty as well. You need to control the lands that you are living in. You need to be able to move. This is why I've called Latin America home for the past 2 years, because the governments are simply incompetent. If there is another lockdown tomorrow because of the influenza season 2.0, I know I can jump a border to Bolivia or jump a border to Uruguay or somehow get to El Salvador. I won't be locked in another country like Australia or the UK ever again. So again, geographical sovereignty, financial sovereignty with Bitcoin, and then entrepreneurial sovereignty. You need to have control over your own revenue streams. Okay, you cannot work a 9 to 5 where your boss can cancel you because you might say online that you think masks are a scam. Or you might say that anyway, I'm going to be careful what I say, but anyway, I'm going to pass it on. I think there's 3 pillars to sovereignty that the true digital renaissance man of the 21st century are going to exploit, and those are the 3 pillars.
Thanks for these great answers. I would like to quote my good friend Frank Brown. He said many years ago, technology leads, politicians just follow. And we should be aware of that. And I would like to, I wrote like a multiple presentation about prediction, like a future prediction, crypto-related future predictions. And one important thing we should be aware that I would like to distinguish between like a centralized paradigm, the world, the society where we are just living, and decentralized paradigm, the society where basically where we are going just now, thanks to Bitcoin. And so now we still live in centralized paradigm, in centralized society, and the centralized governments will be here even in 20 years, despite the fact we don't like it, but they will be here. And what is important to be aware of is that the centralized government, they are losing control over digital world. They're losing control over Bitcoin, despite the fact that they are trying to introduce like a KYC and different ways of centralization. The governments in these days, they're losing control over like a digital world. And the cool thing is that most, especially Bitcoin people, when they're switching to this digital world, the government are losing control over these people. But at the same time, they have and they will have full control over the physical world. So it means that it's very likely, it's already happening in Europe. For example, in my country, Slovakia, Czech Republic, they will introduce like a higher property tax, for example. They will increase like a physical, like a income tax for anything you offer in a physical world. So if you are present in a physical world, they will tax you, they will regulate you, and it will be worse. And it's worse. Like I recommend you to wait until the end of this presentation, because I'm going to talk about the situation in the European Union, and this is like happening. So we should be aware that we are switching to the second paradigm. And the government, they are trying to use tools of the first paradigm to regulate or to control the second paradigm, like a Bitcoin. And we should be aware of that. Like any like centralized control, like for example KYC is a typical example, or any centralized regulation work only in the first paradigm, but they won't work in the second paradigm. And it's a question of time when we switch to the second paradigm. So.
Thanks, Pavel.
That's all.
We have a few minutes remaining. Tenemos unos minutos, así que we're gonna get to a closing. Please stay.
No, tenemos hasta 2 menos 20. Hasta 2 menos 20, 1:40. Está mal el reloj.
El reloj está mal, tenemos más tiempo, perfecto.
Yo mando acá, no te preocupes.
Bien, bien, Camilo. Okay, we have a few minutes left. Don't worry about the clock.
The clock is wrong.
Okay, excelente. Quisiera preguntarles,
Tenemos hasta 2 menos 20.
¿qué creen que tiene Sudamérica en particular para ofrecer en cuanto a estos desafíos que estamos conversando? Me gustaba lo que decían, que la incompetencia de los estados latinoamericanos quizás es nuestra principal fortaleza. Me encantó ese concepto. Y también una recomendación a quienes nos están escuchando, si vibraron con todo lo que escucharon y están alineados ideológicamente con todo lo que se dijo, si hay algo que puedan hacer para contribuir a este movimiento de las jurisdicciones personalizadas o de recuperar la soberanía del individuo.
Si hay algo que se puede hacer, ¿qué puede hacer la gente?
¿Qué puede hacer la gente para contribuir, como por
Tal
ejemplo
cual.
investigar sobre lo que tú estás haciendo? Y si Latinoamérica en particular tiene un ángulo diferencial que por ahí nos posiciona
Te tomo eso.
diferente del hemisferio occidental o de países más avanzados.
I take that question. What can people do regarding free cities and Bitcoin Citadels, special jurisdictions? Well, basically, my thesis is like, in the cyberspace, we have already achieved freedom. Crypto-anarchists and cypherpunks have set their conquering flag there, and we have all the freedom that we can obtain there. But in the physical space, we still have to find some slight roundabout way in order to remove the market of living together from the hands of the government. And that's it. We have to build these spaces. We have to build free cities, special jurisdiction, Bitcoin Citadels, charter cities, intentional communities, network state, self-government jurisdiction, autonomous intentional communities, and everything in between. And we have to build them from the top to down, like special economic zones, or from the bottom up, like grassroots projects or Bitcoin Citadels. And basically, we're building it. There's a lot of builders doing that, and there's going to be lots of consumers. The best a consumer can do is like establish his thought in the market, like make a signal in the market that he's looking to consume that product, that he's looking to actually consume freedom, and go to the market and pay for freedom in any way they can, in any kind of this project. That's it.
Yo creo que sin duda Argentina, más que Sudamérica, incluso Argentina en específico, es el país perfecto para empezar una nueva era. porque tiene una mentalidad increíble, una población joven con ganas de entenderlo, y si cambia estas ideas políticas, ¿no? Si es capaz de entender que hay que superar el Estado-nación, yo creo que puede empezar una nueva era aquí, directamente, ¿no? Creando estas jurisdicciones personalizadas y alumbrando probablemente la nación más rica de la historia, ¿no? Porque el valor del intercambio es fundamental y el territorio político está excluido del intercambio. Actualmente no podemos crear nuevas comunidades políticas. Si hay un presidente de un gobierno, si hay una comunidad política como el Estado argentino, como los ciudadanos de Argentina, que son capaces de entender esto y se ponen a alumbrar nuevas comunidades políticas, estamos ante el nacimiento de una nueva era imparable. ¿Y eso cómo podéis ayudar? Difundiendo las ideas. Ya está. Porque las herramientas para hacerlo ya la tenemos. Tenemos a Bitcoin. Ya está, no necesitamos más.
So, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I'll add, there are two main things that two main qualities that Latin American has, which makes it perfect for free cities, which are Latin America is big and Latin American is cheap. You can buy a lot of land for a tenth of or 100 times the amount you will spend in any other place in the world. Also, Latin America, Argentina, you have these big cities, but you have these extremely remote areas, which furthers and makes even the case for free cities even better. In terms of what people can do, I know this is going to sound a little bit weird. I know most of us are liberal, libertarian, right-leaning people, and sadly, on this side of the aisle, these types of words are weird, but do politics. Get yourself in politics, get yourself in rallies, get yourself in political work, either on the state or privately. You need to make yourself present, you need to work. Nobody is going to hand this to you. You need to achieve it yourselves.
So we're discussing here whether Latin America has a special edge in this revolution for any reason. I really enjoy the incompetence of our governments as a strength. I love that. So if you can elaborate on that. And then for those in the audience that resonate with everything you guys are saying, is there anything they could do to actively promote what we are discussing here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think thinking about Argentina especially, one of the advantages that I think Argentina has right now is, or the edge that Argentina has is, it could potentially be more on the upswing than, whereas some of the other more decrepit nation states like the US are just so bloated, just have so many issues that they've got to deal with, that things seem to be disintegrating a little faster. You know, walking through the streets of Buenos Aires, for instance, you just get a feeling for a lot of hope, a lot of opportunity, just for in terms of investment and bang for your buck for land, especially. There's a lot of opportunity here for growth. So when you're wanting to start something new, it's always, I think, bringing new wine into new wineskins is always an attractive option. One advantage as well in terms of this particular region of Latin America is the distance from some of the major kinetic warfare risks that are at play right now in the world. That's something to really consider when you're thinking about building for the long term. Another advantage is just the connection to nature. You have really robust food and resource systems here in the country that are all self-contained. like high quality natural resources all over the place. I like a lot of the surfing opportunities that Latin America provides. I think that the fun element of Latin America shouldn't be overlooked. Like just having, being able to have a quality life here is you know, that's something that the simple things in life that you enjoy, being able to just go to the beach, go out for a walk in nature, and actually connect with your neighbors. I think having that the cultural element of family orientation as well. There's all, you know, I can go on and on about the advantages of Latin America. And in terms of things that you can do, I think that what I'm trying to focus on with our community and with my actions is help people to go and explore and experience these areas. If you are only looking at YouTube videos, if you're watching travel vlogs and everything and trying to get a feel for the place, it's really hard to make a decision for where you want to be. So I'm actually leading an expedition with Mikael Margiota here. We're going to Cordoba on Monday. We're flying in a private plane to our property in Cordoba, be living the ranch style life there. Going hunting and hiking and mountain biking, horseback riding, all of that. And then from there we're flying to Bariloche and living in the mountains for a week on a lake, on a beautiful villa, going to do river rafting, sailing, and just exploring all that the mountains of Patagonia have to offer. So not only that, but doing it with people that you could potentially see being in a community with, and exploring what that type of life together experience is like. I think, you know, we can build all the freedom that we possibly can for ourselves. We can have the private jet, we can have the mansion, the ranch out in the woods, but if you don't have friends and family and a quality social life and people to enjoy it with, then what the hell is the point? So to me, that's really the most important thing. Get together with your friends, get together with people that you align with, and do cool shit together, and build your life into something that is admirable, that you're proud of, and build the freedom in your own life that you want to see in the world.
Yeah, so I describe myself as a Bitcoin maximalist, but I think secondly, I'm probably a Latin American maximalist. I absolutely love the region for a number of reasons. I think Latin America has suffered so much pain over the past 50, 80 years, while the Western world has experienced so much benefit. They have extracted the resources from Africa and Latin America for their own benefit. So this is why I believe we're seeing the fourth turning unfold on a different time frame. So for those unaware, we've 90-year fourth turning cycle is based on a book written in 1997. The authors predicted that between the years 2008 and 2030, we are in the fourth turning. So this is a crisis period. If you go back every 90 years in history, you see a fourth turning. Okay, you see 20 years of chaos, 20 years of war, 20 years of societal division, 20 years of cultural division. So we're in the 2020s right now. We're in a fourth turning. 90 years ago, we had the 1930s fourth turning. We saw FDR turn America into a socialist revolution. We saw, you know, the whole German Jew situation. We saw Mussolini rise up in Italy. 90 years before them, we saw the 1860s Civil War. 90 years before then, you saw the 1770s American and French Revolution. So again, like this, a lot of people hear cycles and they hear woo-woo. Okay, this is crazy. But I mean, if you look around the world, we're in a fourth turning cycle. And it's my thesis that I believe Argentina and El Salvador are already getting out of this crisis period. They're already getting out of this 22-year crisis period. Like if you have a look at the people they're voting in, for the first time in 80 years, El Salvador votes in somebody who is not left or right. They vote in Bukele, who is I believe, once-in-a-thousand-year leader. He has the potential to be a once-in-a-thousand-year leader. Big claim, I know. But El Salvador has spoken. They said, we don't care about your left and right charades. It's bullshit. We're voting in a man who's promising serious change. And I think we're seeing the same thing here in Argentina. Again, for the first time in 85 or 90 years, the people have said, yeah, you know what? I'm sick of free money. I'm sick of the handouts. I'm sick of the socialism. We're voting against Peronism. Is that how you say it? My Australian pronunciation of Spanish words is a little bit malos. But Argentina is saying enough is enough. We want out. So I believe that what the people are voting for is telling us that people in Latin America, they're more fed up with the bullshit over the past 80 years of this fiat system we've been living under. So I think, like, from a societal standpoint, I prefer to live in Latin America because of those reasons. The people clearly want change. They're voting in someone who's promising to abolish the central bank. I want to live in that country. I want to live in Bitcoin country in El Salvador, where the people are saying, yeah, you know what, we don't mind this crazy young Bukele who's, you know, putting us on a Bitcoin standard. And then obviously there's a ton of other reasons mentioned, like from a nuclear standpoint, you're very safe in Latin America. From a food standpoint, you're in great shape in Latin America. As a gringo with a shit lid like me, dating in Latin America is like living life on easy mode. The food in Latin America, it's incredibly great food in Latin America. And like the whole border situation, if you need to cross a border in Latin America to get out of the next lockdown, there will be another lockdown, it's coming. That's a big prediction I've been making for 4 years. 2020 was just the entree, baby. They're going to come with more lockdowns and more tyranny. And when that day comes, it will come, I believe Latin America is the best place to hide. I mean, who wants to be stuck in a little Asian island when they lock the borders again and there's no international flight? I got a ton of nomad friends who are in Asia right now, and I haven't been there yet because I'm just too scared of what might happen. So again, I think Latin America has so many advantages. And then what can we do about it? Simply store your wealth in Bitcoin. You don't need to do anything else. Voting left or right doesn't matter. You know, blue man, red man, doesn't matter. They're not going to help you. Simply store your wealth in Bitcoin and opt out of the traditional system. Voting's a scam. Politics is a scam. You know, don't feed into that system. They like the chaos. They like the distractions. Don't be distracted by it. Opt out with Bitcoin and then opt out with your physical life. Go move somewhere that's going to treat you best.
Yeah.
Claps, yeah, that was awesome. The final remarks, Pavol, and then we're ready for your next panel.
Yeah, just very shortly. It seems I'm also the Latin American maximalist. I like this term. Anyway, so just very shortly, from the perspective of Latin America, I really appreciate that countries in Latin America are pretty diverse and decentralized. And which means there are much more competition. For example, almost all countries in Central America offer territorial taxation, which is really useful. It's not so centralized like in the EU, for example, despite the fact there is like a Mercosur, for example, which is some kind of centralization. So I appreciate that there is like a competition, like a really significant competition here. And in case of Argentina, I love Argentina because it's a big country, it's diverse. Basically, I would compare Argentina to the US because in the US you have more than 50 states, and there is almost everything. The same in Argentina, you have like a different climate, different parts, different regions, and I really appreciate it. And what I think Argentina can offer to this private city, for example, is just physical space. So I think I love this physical space here in Argentina, especially also enjoy Buenos Aires. That's all.
Bueno, ha sido un enorme placer compartir este panel con ustedes. Muchísimas gracias por lo que han compartido. Un gran aplauso para nuestros panelistas. Y viva la libertad, ¿no? Vamos, gracias. Quédense aquí que Pavol ahora nos va a dar una presentación, así que sigue esto. Camilo, tú quedas moderando.
Quedo yo moderando. Gracias, Gabriel.
La moderación. Muchas gracias.